All right, so
Yeah.
get this. We are going deep, deep into the world of computer viruses and all those annoying tech things that can go wrong with our computers. You know what I mean? Like when your computer just decides to completely freeze up right when you're in the middle of something super important.
Yeah, it could be so frustrating.
It is. It's like it knows when to cause the most trouble. But here's the thing. For this deep dive, we're going to treat this whole thing kind of like a real-life English lesson, okay?
Okay.
We're going to break down all those tech terms that sometimes sound like a completely different language. And by the end of it, you'll not only have like a tech dictionary in your brain, but you'll also like know how to actually keep your computer happy and healthy.
Good
Deal.
deal.
Awesome. So let's get right to it. The first big question we need to answer is like, what exactly is a computer virus? How do you know if you've got one? And what are the things you can do to protect yourself?
Yeah, I think a lot of people use the term computer virus, but they don't really understand what's actually going on, like, behind the scenes.
Totally. Yeah, it can be really like abstract.
Yeah.
Like in the stuff we read to get ready for this, they actually define a computer virus as like a program that is specifically designed to mess up or even like damage your computer. And they use the word sickness, which I think is
Yeah.
really interesting. Like our computers can get sick too. Can you like explain how this sickness actually works?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good analogy because just like a normal virus, a computer virus is all about replicating, making copies of itself and spreading. It kind of like attaches itself to a file and then makes copies of itself and starts infecting like other files and programs on your
Oh,
computer.
wow.
And just like a normal virus can like make you feel sick and like mess up your body, a computer virus can like really throw your computer's operations into total chaos.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it gets even more interesting because there are like different types of these digital bugs, like worms, trojans, ransomware. They all have like their own special way of getting in there and wreaking havoc.
Oh, man. That's kind of scary. So, we know these viruses are out there, but how can we actually tell if our computer has like, caught one of these bugs? Like one of the things we read described a computer like constantly freezing. I'm sure like everyone listening has experienced that at some point.
Mm.
It's like your computer just suddenly takes a nap right in the middle of when you need it.
Freezing is definitely like a red flag,
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily the cause. It's more like a symptom.
Oh, I see.
It's like your computer hitting like a giant roadblock. Now, this could happen for a bunch of different reasons, but one of the most common ones is an infected file.
An infected file.
Yeah, when your computer tries to access that file, that's when the virus can jump in and really disrupt how everything's supposed to work. Like the program, even the whole system sometimes just grinds to a halt.
Oh, man. And these viruses, they can be so subtle. Like I remember something else we read talking about their computer just like acting up, which I think is such a good way to describe it. It's like that feeling of something's wrong, but you just can't quite pinpoint what it is.
It's like your computer's trying to tell you something's wrong, but it just can't quite speak your language?
Yeah, yeah.
And this acting up can show up in a bunch of different ways, like maybe your computer starts running super slow, or programs keep crashing for no reason, or you start getting these strange pop-up windows you've never seen before.
Yeah?
It's your computer's way of saying, hey, something's not right here. You might want to take a look.
Okay. So besides freezing and acting up, what are some other signs, like red flags, that we might have one of these digital intruders like hiding in our computer?
Well, one of the most obvious signs is if your computer suddenly starts running way slower than normal.
Ooh, okay.
Like, it might take forever to start up, or programs are laggy and slow. Even like simple things like opening a file could take way longer than usual.
Ugh, yeah.
You might also see some weird stuff happening, like programs opening and closing on their own, or your hard drive making a ton of noise for no reason. Even like your internet data usage going way up when you haven't been doing anything different.
Okay, so we've learned how to spot the warning signs, but let's be honest, it's always better to like prevent these problems in the first place, right?
Oh, absolutely. Prevention is key when it comes to these things.
Totally. So what can we actually do to, protect our computers?
Well, the good news is there are actually some pretty easy and effective ways to keep your computer safe and sound. And it all starts with having a good defense system in place, which is where antivirus software comes in.
Okay, antivirus software. Speaking of that, the stuff we were reading kept saying how important it is to keep it up to date. Why is that so important? It's not like our antivirus software has to check its email or watch funny videos online to stay updated,
Yeah.
right?
Right. It's not about social updates. It's about staying ahead of those nasty digital bugs.
Yeah.
Up to date for antivirus means having all the newest information and protection against all the latest threats. Think of it like a vaccine for your computer. Just like scientists come up with new vaccines to fight new diseases, cybersecurity experts are constantly finding new computer viruses and creating updates to protect you.
So it's like a constant battle, like a digital arms race. They're always trying to stay one step ahead of the bad guys.
Exactly. Without these updates, your antivirus software is like a knight wearing rusty armor. It might look tough, but it won't stand a chance against the latest weapons.
Got it. So how do we actually make sure our antivirus is, staying current and getting those important updates?
Most antivirus programs nowadays are pretty smart. They have this automatic update feature built in, so it's kind of like having your own personal bodyguard always watching out for you. But it's always a good idea to double check just to be sure. You can usually find the update options in the settings menu. And if you're ever unsure, just do a quick search online for like how to update and the name of your antivirus software. You'll find tons of guides.
That's super helpful.
Yeah.
You know, th this whole thing about keeping things up to date, it reminds me of something else we read about keeping maps and reports up to date too. Like, it seems this idea of keeping things updated goes way beyond just computer viruses.
It totally does. Staying up to date is a really important concept in this digital world.
Yeah.
Those software updates, they don't just include the latest virus protection. They also include things like performance improvements, bug fixes, and even sometimes like brand new features.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
So it's not just about security. It's about making sure all our digital tools are working as well as they can.
exactly. It's all about getting the most out of your technology and making sure your digital experience is top-notch.
Awesome. Okay, so we've talked a lot about viruses, but let's switch gears a bit. What are some other tech problems besides viruses that can cause our devices to, you know, totally freak out?
Yeah, so beyond those pesky viruses, there's a whole bunch of other tech issues that can make you feel like you're stuck in digital quicksand.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about one that's like way too familiar. Slow computer performance. It's like watching paint dry. You know what I mean, right?
Oh, tell me about it. And it's usually not just one thing. It's like a bunch of things all combining to create this massive digital traffic jam. One of the most common culprits is simply having too many programs running all at once.
It's like trying to do a million things at the same time. Eventually, you just can't keep up.
Exactly. Every program running on your computer takes up processing power and memory. Think of your computer's processing power like a pie, okay? Each program takes a slice. If you have too many programs running, they're all fighting over that pie, and there's not enough left for what you actually want to do.
So it's a digital food fight. That's a great way to put it. Okay, so what can we do to get things running smoothly again? Like, how can we get those programs to play nice?
First, take a look at your system tray. It's usually down in the bottom right corner of your screen. See those little icons? A lot of times those are programs running in the background even if you're not actively using them. Close out any programs you don't need and see if that helps.
Okay, good tip. But what if that doesn't work? What else could be slowing things down?
Sometimes the issue isn't too many programs, it's not having enough RAM. That's random access memory.
Okay, RAM, I've heard of that, but remind me, what exactly is it and why does it matter?
Think of RAM like your computer's short-term memory. It's where your computer stores the information it needs to access quickly. If you don't have enough RAM, your computer has to constantly swap information between RAM and your hard drive, which is way slower. And that's when you start seeing those annoying delays.
So if having enough RAM is like having a nice big desk where you can spread out all your work, not having enough is like working on a tiny table where you can barely fit anything.
That's a perfect analogy. And upgrading your RAM can make a world of difference in how fast your computer runs.
Okay, I'm definitely going to look into that.
Hmm.
Now let's talk about those super annoying error messages that seem to come out of nowhere. It's like our computers are trying to speak to us in some secret code.
Those error messages can be pretty intimidating, but they're actually your computer's way of telling you something's wrong. And even though they might seem confusing, they can often give you clues about what's going on.
So how do we go from being totally confused to actually figuring out what those messages mean?
It's all about staying calm and thinking like a detective. First, write down the exact message, including any codes or numbers. Then go to your favorite search engine like Google and type in that error message. You'll likely find helpful forums, articles, or maybe even the official support page for whatever software is giving you the error. They'll explain what the error means and give you suggestions for how to fix it.
So it's like having a decoder ring for our computer.
Uh,
Okay, next up, let's talk about internet connectivity problems. I think we've all been there, and it's the worst. We live in a world where we're constantly connected, and then suddenly you're cut off. It's like being stranded on a desert island.
it really can feel that way. But before you start panicking, remember that fixing internet connectivity problems is usually about eliminating possibilities.
Okay, so where do we even start?
The first thing you got to do is figure out where the problem is. Is it your modem, your router, your internet service provider, or something else entirely?
Okay, it's like playing a game of Clue. We have to find the culprit.
Exactly. Start by checking the lights on your modem and router. If the lights are solid green, that usually means you're good. But if you see blinking or red lights, that's a sign that something's wrong. Try restarting your modem and router. It's amazing how often just turning things off and on again actually fixes the problem. If that doesn't work, try connecting your computer directly to the modem and bypassing the router. If that works, then the problem's probably with your router. If it still doesn't work, it could be your modem or your internet provider.
Okay, so we just have to narrow things down. Got it. Now, what about that awful feeling when you realize you've lost important files? It's like that moment when you realize you've lost your keys, but a million times worse.
It can feel like your whole digital world just crashed, but don't give up hope just yet. There are actually a few things you can do to try to get those files back.
Okay, tell me there's a way. Where do we start?
First thing, don't freak out. Just take a deep breath and start with the obvious. Check your recycle bin. Lots of times when you delete a file, it's not actually gone. It's just hanging out in the recycle bin. If you find it there, you can just restore it back to where it was.
Okay, that's a relief. What if it's not in the recycle bin, though?
If it's not there, try searching your computer for the file by its name. You might have accidentally moved it to a different folder without realizing it.
Okay, I've definitely done that before.
Yeah.
But what if we've searched everywhere and the file is nowhere to be found? Is it really gone forever?
If you've accidentally deleted a file and it's not in the recycle bin, you might still be able to get it back. That's where data recovery software comes in. These special programs can actually scan your hard drive for traces of those deleted files, and sometimes they can even bring them back to life.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, let's move on to another one of those tech gremlins that seems to annoy everyone. Printer problems. It's like printers have a mind of their own, and they always decide to act up at the worst possible time.
Oh, printers. They definitely have a reputation for being a little bit temperamental. But before you give up and toss your printer out the window, let's go through some basic troubleshooting.
Okay, let's give it a try. What are the first things we should check?
Start with the obvious, make sure it's plugged in and turned on. You'd be surprised how often that's the problem. Then check for paper jams. Open up your printer and see if there's any crumpled paper stuck in there. And make sure you have ink or toner cartridges installed and that you're using the right type of paper.
It really is amazing how often those little things fix the problem. What if we've tried all of that and our printer's still not cooperating?
If those basic checks don't help, then it's time to pull out the big guns, the printer's manual. Think of it like the instruction book for your printer. It can tell you all about its little quirks and how to fix common problems. You can usually find the manual online if you don't have the paper copy anymore. And if you're really stuck, you can always try searching online for your specific printer model and the error message you're getting. Chances are someone else has had the same problem and figured out how to fix it.
That's so helpful. It's like having a whole online support group for your printer. Okay, this has been super helpful. But before we finish up this part of our deep dive, there's one more really important aspect of our digital lives that we need to talk about. Online safety.
Ah, yes, navigating the online world safely and responsibly. It can feel kind of like going on an adventure into unknown territory.
And that's a whole other can of worms that we're going to open up next. All right, so let's dive right into this whole online safety thing. It's like we've learned how to protect our computers from those digital bugs, but now we got to figure out how to protect ourselves.
Right, exactly. It's a whole other level of digital defense, and it all starts with protecting your personal information. It's like guarding the keys to your online kingdom.
Okay, so what are like the most important things to remember when it comes to keeping our personal info safe online?
Well, it all starts with strong passwords. They're like the gatekeepers to all your online accounts. A weak password is like leaving your front door wide open. You're practically asking for trouble.
So how do we create these super strong passwords? What are like the key ingredients?
The recipe for a strong password is actually pretty simple. Just use a mix of uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols. And whatever you do, don't use easy to guess stuff like your birthday, your pet's name, Or definitely not the word password.
Okay, good advice. So it's like creating a secret code that only you know. Got it. What else should we be careful about when we're online?
Be really careful about what you share online. Think before you post. Once something's out there on the internet, it's almost impossible to completely delete,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to personal things like your address, your phone number, or any financial information.
Right, it's like shouting that info out to a huge crowd. You never know who might be listening.
Exactly. And speaking of being careful, let's talk about those tricky things called phishing scams. Have you heard of those?
Yeah, phishing scams? They sound kind of fishy, to be honest. What exactly are they?
Phishing scams are all about tricking you. Scammers try to trick you into giving them personal information by pretending to be someone they're not. Like, they might pretend to be your bank or a government agency or even like a company you do business with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they send you emails or messages that look super official, but they're really just trying to get you to click on bad links or give them your personal info.
So it's like they're trying to lure you in with something that looks tempting, but it's really just a trap.
Exactly. The best way to avoid getting caught is to be suspicious of everything. Always double check the sender's email address, look for any weird wording or misspellings, and never click on a link without hovering over it first to see where it really goes. If anything seems even a little bit off, trust your gut and don't click on it.
Okay, so it's like being an online detective. You got to look for those clues that something isn't right. Okay, let's talk about social media. It's a great way to stay connected with people, but it comes with its own set of safety rules, right?
Absolutely. Social media is like a giant online party, and you got to be careful who you talk to.
So what are the most important things to keep in mind when it comes to staying safe on social media?
First of all, make sure you understand your privacy settings. Most social media sites let you control who can see your posts and information. Go through those settings regularly and adjust them if you need to. You can decide whether you want to share things just with friends and family or with everyone on the internet.
Oh, right. It's like choosing between having a quiet conversation with a friend or shouting it from the rooftops.
Exactly. And just like in real life, be cautious about connecting with people you don't know online. You never know who's really on the other side of the screen.
That's true. So it's like we need to be online detectives and verify who people are before we add them as friends or followers.
Right. And one more thing to keep in mind with social media is that anything you post online can be really hard to completely erase. Even if you delete it, it's possible that someone already saw it, copied it, or shared it somewhere else.
Like a digital tattoo. It can be there forever. That's a great way to put it.
Now, before we wrap things up, we need to talk about protecting children online.
Yes, this is so important. Kids are growing up surrounded by technology, so we have to make sure they know how to use it safely and responsibly.
Absolutely. It's our job as adults to guide them and teach them those essential online safety skills. The best way to do that is to have honest conversations about the potential dangers online and empower them to make good choices. And most importantly, let them know that they can always come to you if they see something online that makes them feel uncomfortable or scared.
So it's like we're giving them a map and a compass to help them navigate the online world safely. What else can parents do to protect their kids online?
Setting clear rules and boundaries is huge. This could include things like time limits for how long they can be online, making sure they only visit age-appropriate websites, and rules about sharing personal information.
It's like we're setting up those digital guardrails to keep them safe.
Exactly. And it's a good idea to monitor their online activity. Not in a creepy way, but just to stay informed about what they're doing, what sites they're visiting, what games they're playing, and who they're talking to.
It's like being a digital chaperone, making sure they're not getting into trouble.
Right. Another important thing is to teach them about cyberbullying. Let them know that words can hurt even online, and that it's important to speak up if they see someone being bullied or if it's happening to them.
It's all about creating a positive and respectful online environment for everyone.
Exactly. And remember, online safety is a constant conversation. Technology keeps changing, and so do the risks. We have to stay informed, adapt our approach, and always keep those lines of communication open.
This has been such a helpful and informative deep dive into online safety. We've learned so much about protecting our personal information, being smart on social media, and keeping kids safe in the digital world.
It all comes down to being informed, being aware, and being proactive.
Totally. The more we know about the potential risks and how to protect ourselves, the safer and more confident we'll be in our digital lives.
Well said. So until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe online.
And that's a wrap on another deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time for another fascinating journey into the world of knowledge and discovery.